The court action might be over and the two central characters in the saga out of the Parliament, but the details surrounding the sexual harassment case brought by former staff member James Ashby against his then boss Peter Slipper continue to cause waves in federal politics. Last night Mr Ashby claimed that coalition frontbencher Christopher Pyne offered to organise a lawyer for him and assured him of a job before the allegations became public knowledge. Mr Pyne maintains he had no specific knowledge of the allegations before they appeared in print and denies he made specific offers of legal and employment help, but he acknowledges the subjects were discussed in general terms. Here's what Mr Ashby told the 60 Minutes program last night.
Wyatt said to me, once I speak to Christopher, I'll get you the information which will help you make that complaint.
Were you worried about what that would mean, going to Christopher Pyne?
I still had my concerns about that. Having not known Christopher for long, I'd certainly seen him numerous times in our office.
Well, he's clearly a political animal.
Definitely.
And this is dynamite in his hands. You agree?
Yes. I sat down at his desk and I said to him, Wyatt's discussed my situation with you. He didn't really acknowledge the question. He sort of just allowed me to continue talking. And I said to him, I just need to know that my job is safe and that a lawyer will be provided. And he said they would. I remember the conversation didn't last too long at all. We literally got up from his table. He walked me towards the door. He said to me, you're a braver man than I am, as we exited, and said, if you discuss or tell anyone we've had this discussion, I'll be forced to come out publicly and call you a pathological liar.
The Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, has responded to the allegations that his colleagues were involved in discussions with James Ashby before he launched his sexual harassment case against Peter Slipper.
Well, the important issues here are, did the former Speaker sexually harass a member of his staff, and did the former Speaker misuse his entitlements? And both matters have been before the courts. Obviously, Mr Ashby was able to put a point of view last night, and the courts have dealt with the misuse of entitlements matter, and the former Speaker has been convicted of a serious offence.
Mr Ashby has made some more allegations last night, and you've said before, and your front benches have said before, for example, Christopher Pyne, he had no specific knowledge about the events in question. Can you clarify those comments, and did you have any general knowledge?
Well, I certainly stand by everything that I've said about this, and I am confident that Christopher will stand by everything that he said about this business. What fundamentally emerged from the program last night is that Mr Ashby did what he did because he thought it was the right thing to do. He believed that he had been treated in a way which was not only completely improper, completely and utterly improper and wrong and despicable, but he believed that he'd been treated in ways that were contrary to law. And look, I watched the program last night. I saw what I took to be a decent man who'd been put into an impossible position, and I had a lot of sympathy for him. But the point that I make is that all of this has been before the courts, and it all relates to a period in our national life which was discreditable, which was sordid, which was squalid, and which is over.
As I mentioned, the Education Minister, Christopher Pyne, is standing by his earlier comments that he had no specific knowledge of the sexual harassment allegations against Mr Slipper. Here's Mr Pyne speaking to reporters a little earlier today.
Well, I had no specific knowledge of the allegations that Mr Ashby later made that were contained in his affidavits in the federal court. Of course, rumours always circulate around Parliament House in Canberra, and rumours have circulated about Peter Slipper for some time. So I was generally aware of the tenor of the rumours that were circulating, but I had no specific knowledge of the allegations.
Did you meet with Mr Ashby before he made public his allegations against Mr Slipper?
Well, I had 3 meetings with Mr Ashby, which I've detailed before. The first was when I met him in Peter Slipper's office, very briefly. The second was when I shared a drink with him and another staffer while I was waiting for Peter Slipper to come back from the adjournment debate when he was the Speaker. And the third was when he came to collect a couple of bottles of wine that the then Leader of the Opposition had signed for a retiring staff member. And that conversation was the crux of my involvement, aired last night on 60 Minutes.
Did you confirm an offer of a job within either the state or federal LNP with Mr Ashby at the meeting in your office?
When I had a brief meeting with Mr Ashby, we discussed the fact that the Queensland state election was coming very soon. He indicated that he was uncomfortable in Mr Slipper's office, and I indicated to him that if we won the Queensland state election, that would be a chance potentially for him to get out of Mr Slipper's office. But the fact is that there was no job ever provided for Mr Ashby, and he admits that himself last night.
Did you lead him to believe that there would be a job provided for him?
Well, Mr Ashby did not get a job from the coalition, either from the Queensland LNP or the federal government.
But did you lead him to believe that he might?
Certainly my intention was never to lead him to believe that a job would be provided to him, but obviously if we won the Queensland state election and then subsequently the federal election, when you are in government there are a lot more jobs available than when you are in opposition, and if he felt uncomfortable in Mr Slipper's office, that would be an opportunity for him to get out of the office.
Did you intimate to him that a lawyer...
Sorry,
Mr Slipper made mention by him? Did you say he felt harassed and aggrieved?
Well, as he said last night in the 60 Minutes show, and I think we should point out that Mr Ashby's been through quite a trauma for the last 2.5 to 3 years. I thought he was very courageous last night in telling his story. He came across as a very decent person who wants to put that unhappy period behind him, and I think the whole country wants to put the unhappy period of the Gillard government behind it. And therefore, when he came to see me, as he indicated, it was a brief meeting. I didn't have the knowledge that I do now about what he was talking about.
He never expressed it to you?
I certainly did not know about the allegations that he subsequently made against Mr Slipper. Did I know that he felt uncomfortable in Peter Slipper's office? Yes, I did. And that would not have been unusual because of the rumours that had circulated about Mr Slipper for some time.
Did you raise those rumours with him?
No.
Did you intimate to him that a lawyer would be provided to him?
Mr Ashby said last night on the 60 Minutes program that it was made very clear to him that there would be no job and that there'd be no lawyer. And in fact, he got his own lawyers and he took his own actions in the federal court, and the rest is history.
But at a meeting in your office, did you ever intimate to him or confirm an offer to him of a lawyer?
Well, no solicitor was provided to Mr Ashby.
But did you intimate to him that one might be?
I spoke to Mr Ashby briefly, and we canvassed the fact that he felt uncomfortable in Peter Slipper's office. Obviously, it would be very sensible if he felt that he was uncomfortable, and as it turned out he made allegations about sexual harassment. It'd be very sensible for him to get good legal advice. He subsequently did get good legal advice, but I did not provide it.
Did you give him the impression that you would organise legal advice for him?
That was not my intention, no.
But do you think you did give him that impression?
No, I don't believe I did.
Did you say to him he's afraid of...
Sorry.
Did you say, Mr Ashby, that you would discredit him if he ever tried to discuss the meeting that you've had?
Obviously, as the manager of opposition business, I had a relationship with the Speaker and his office, which was important to maintain. Remember that Mr Slipper had been a Deputy Speaker and then was the Speaker. The manager of opposition business spends a lot of time in the Parliament, in the chamber, and given the circumstances of him replacing Harry Jenkins, obviously one of my roles was to maintain a relationship with the Speaker and his office. So if I did make those remarks, it would have been to indicate that it would be best if Mr Slipper wasn't aware that his staff was in my office telling me that he felt uncomfortable in his office.
Did you threaten to call him a pathological liar publicly?
Well, I certainly would not have used that language, and I would have indicated that when the Speaker's staff were in my office telling me that he felt uncomfortable, that would affect my relationship with Mr Slipper as the Speaker if that became known.